we worked in the last unit with the quadratic formula. We're going to work with it again today. In the last unit, when we worked with it, we found decimal answers if the answers weren't irrational or integer. And so typically, you will often have to find your answer for the quadratic formula in a simplified radical form, which is we're working with radicals in this unit. So I wanted to repeat it again and give you the opportunity to see the quadratic formula using simplified radicals instead of the decimal answers. You will need to know the quadratic formula for this test, so start working on it now to memorize it. So I will embarrass myself yet one more time and sing the quadratic formula for you. X is equal to negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so let's move down to example 1. We've talked about it once before, and we know that we need to know a, b, and c. So for this problem, remember that the a is the coefficient of the x squared term, so a is going to be equal to 2. B is the coefficient of the x term, so that's 8. And c is the constant, which happens to be negative 17. We're going to use it in our formula, so we'll have that x is equal to the opposite of b. B is a positive 8, so the opposite's negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared is 64. 8 times 8 is 64, minus 4 times 2 times negative 17. I'll extend that radical. All over 2 times a, so 2 times 2 is 4. So x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64. We're going to have a negative. We have a negative times a negative, and that's going to give us a positive in the middle. Let's multiply out 8 times 17. Let's see what that is. 6, carry your 5. That's 136. So 64 plus 136 all over 4. So then, let's see, let's erase this over here. Make that go away. Then that will give us x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 200 over 4. So we'll do this little squiggly line and bring that back to the top over here. So that's going to be x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus. Okay, we'll break our 200 up into 100 times 2. So that's going to be 10 radical 2 all over 4. All right, so up here is finished. We simplified our radical. However, we can also reduce this. So let's just take a minute and notice what it's going to take to reduce it. So I'm going to try and get a highlighter here, maybe not. Highlighter. Let me get a highlighter. And what I'm going to do, in order to reduce it, I am going to need a number that goes into all 3 of those positions right there. It can't just go into 2 of them. It has to go into all 3 of those spots. And I can see that 2 will go into 8, will go into 10, and it'll go into 4. So I am going to reduce this by 2. So I will end up with x is equal to negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4, plus or minus 10 divided by 2 is 5, radical 2, all over, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that reduces to negative 4 plus or minus 5 square root of 2 over 2. But key is it must go into all 3 spots in order for it to reduce. Example 2, I have x squared plus 1 is equal to 3x. In order to begin the quadratic formula, I need to have it in standard form. So I will need to move, I need to subtract, maybe I'll just say subtract. I need to subtract 3x from both sides. So subtract 3x, subtract 3x. and that's going to leave me with x squared minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. So this is standard form. So once I have it there, then I can see that a is 1, b is negative 3, and c is positive 1. So notice that it was important that we do put it in standard form, because if I had looked at the 3 in the original problem up here, I would see that up there that the, let's see if it does that, the 3 has got a positive. So you got to make sure that it's in the standard form so that you get the correct sign on your b. So b is negative 3. So x then is equal to the opposite of b, so positive 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 9, minus 4 times 1 times 1. So that's going to be all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So x is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 4, so 5, all over 2. Square root of 5 it won't simplify, and I don't see anything that can reduce. So there I have it. That's my answer. We have one last one. So example 3, it's in standard form because I have a 0 on the right. So this time I can see that a is equal to 1, b is equal to, okay, coefficient of x, there's no x, that means that b is 0, and then c is equal to negative 12. Quadratic formula, x is equal to negative of b, so that's 0, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so again 0, minus 4 times a times c, and c is negative 12. Not very pretty, negative 12. Do that again. Negative 12. All over 2a, so all over 2. So simplify, that's going to be plus or minus the square root of negative times negative is going to give me a positive. 4 times 12 is 48, all over 2. So 48, 48 is one of those that, yes, that's right, 16 goes into. So that's going to break up into 16 times 3, so that's going to be 4 radical 3 over 2. I don't want to forget my plus or minus. And this will reduce, so we'll do that. You can see it reduces right there. And by 2, so that's going to give me plus or minus 2 radical 3 over 1, and we're not, of course, going to place that 1 in there. So my answer is this. Always coming up with 2 answers, one with a plus and one with a minus. See you tomorrow.